again. While our dessert is being served, I'd just like to take a moment to thank the Convention Center staff for their hospitality and for the delicious meal. Thank you very much. We're going to be hearing from Wab soon, but first I'd like to invite our campaign director, Brian Topp, to the stage to introduce our new campaign ad. And Wab, this means you still have a couple minutes to finish your dessert, so we're all good. Brian has a long history in the NDP. I believe it all started in a Montreal riding where he increased the vote count by 100%. A familiar story to Quebec New Democrats, from 1% of the vote to 2% of the vote. But the breakthrough had to start somewhere, and it did. I'm told there is something else in that story about Italian wine and dancing on tables, and I did get to hear a little bit more about it today at dinner time, but that story will be for another time. Brian served as Deputy Chief of Staff to Roy Romano in Saskatchewan, Chief of Staff for Premier Rachel Notley in Alberta, and was a senior advisor to Jack Layton when his orange wave swept across the country in 2011. I worked closely with Brian during both my time as director of the Quebec NDP and during my time as federal party president. On continue. It is a great thing to have him lead our campaign here in Manitoba. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Brian Topp.
Merci beaucoup, Rebecca. Well, I thought I would just begin by joining Rebecca and saying how absolutely great it is to see you all here tonight. And for those of you who are longtime party members, you just look at this and you probably tell yourself, look at what we have done. Look at how well we're doing. And for those of you who are here for the first time, I just want to join her in saying how very welcome you are. And I was asking myself, so what does this look like? And I had two thoughts about that. My first one is, I was thinking of the line from the song, change is going to come. And then I was thinking that we on Table 9 had the honor tonight to be sitting with the next Premier of Manitoba. You know, I guess I'm the campaign manager, so I'm supposed to be thinking about that kind of stuff. We're here to win. That's our task. To win this election, not just to win the election, but to be a good government for Manitobans, for a change. A government that fixes health care and that really might make life better for people. So how do we do that? So you begin with a strong leader, and we got that. And a strong ground game, and that's coming together very nicely, thank you. And smart policies. And then, you know, another thing that we do to win this election, we put together some pretty good ads. We're going to debate the Tories everywhere they debate us, and that includes on television and on radio and on digital. So what I'm about to show you here is one part of that. It's a nice new campaign ad that presents our leader and our vision for Manitoba, positive vision for Manitoba. This ad's going to air on cinemas and on digitals starting on June 23rd. And so without further ado, I've been told to give a really clear mark that now we want to run the ad. And so now we want to run the ad. Let's roll the tape.
Since you were first born and we first held you in our arms, we've tried to teach you to work hard, give back, do the right thing. We've always wanted the best for you. It's what we all want for our kids. the best education, the best jobs, the best health care. A Manitoba that works for everyone. A place where our kids can stay and build a good life. And health care that's there when we need it. What I want for my sons, I want for all of us. A message from the Manitoba NDP.
Now, it was fun to introduce that, but I get to do something better. And so without further ado, it's my privilege to introduce to you the next Premier of Manitoba, Wab Kinew.
We got Jack Layton's guy. How do you do? I'm Wab Kinew. And this year, I'm running to be your premier. But it's a big year for us in our family for a few other reasons as well. One of them being that the kid you saw catching the football over the shoulder there, Dominic, our oldest, is about to graduate high school in 2 weeks' time. And I am going to be a complete teary-eyed mess when he walks across the stage. And just to think as a parent, all the time that he put in, the evenings at Sylvan and the sports that he played, friends that he made over the years, to see it all come to a culmination, it already feels super important and super powerful. So to all the parents and grandparents in the room who've already been through this, you know, I have a ton of admiration for leading the way. And to all the parents in the room with younger kids who have yet to go through this, I say to you, savor every minute of it, every early morning rush, packing the lunch, every tantrum on the way to school, savor it, because it will be over before you know it. And Dominic is graduating from Kelvin, right? Kelvin High School has been one of the best things that's ever happened to Dom. It's an amazing school community. I don't know if there's any Kelvin alumni in the room. Oh yeah, we got a couple. Sayo, I didn't know you went to Kelvin. Sayo works with us at the NDP office. Right on. So Sayo is a Kelvin alumni. So it's such a great school community. I'm sure that many folks in the room know that. And I was talking to another alumni, a guy who went to, alumnus, I guess I should say, for the grammar people in the room. A guy who went to Kelvin back in the 60s. And we got to talking and got to the subject of reconciliation. And then he told me, you know, there was a residential school down the road from us at Kelvin. And I said, yeah, I know. And he said, we knew it was there. We didn't know about all the hardships that those kids were going through, but we knew that they were there. Reason why we knew is because we played them in hockey, and those kids were pretty good. And I said, yeah, I know. One of my dad's best friends was one of those guys. A man by the name of Philip Gardner. And Philip Gardner and his teammates at the Assiniboia Residential School, which, if you don't know, Assiniboia is just down Academy from where Kelvin is. Kelvin's here, Stafford and Academy, and Assiniboia was over here at Route 90 and Academy. And so Phil Gardner and his teammates actually won 5 consecutive junior hockey titles in the 1960s here in Manitoba. And for their triumphs, they were inducted a few years back into the Manitoba Hockey Hall of Fame. And it's a nice move by Hockey Manitoba. And so I was talking, I was thinking back to this conversation with that alumni of Kelvin, and I looked at the teams that Assiniboia beat for the championships. One of them was River Heights. So he knew quite well that those kids were good. But I wanted to share that first and foremost because it's a nice moment to reflect on reconciliation and how far our province is moving. Because a couple generations ago, some of the kids were over there, and then the rest of the kids were here at Kelvin. But today, all of the kids are there at Kelvin, together, moving forward, creating lives with one another. And that means a lot. But I'm here to tell you, on the eve of this provincial election, that work is not finished. There are still kids in this province who need a helping hand. And by the fact of you being here tonight, I know that you want to extend that hand to help these kids in our province. So thank you so much for being here. I want to tell you a story about one of these kids in particular, a young woman who I met many years ago now by the name of Q. That's not her real name. I'm just going to call her Q for the purposes of this story. And I first met her when she was a little kid, probably 7 or 8 years old, at the Aberdeen Boys and Girls Club in the North End, right? And she used to show up every single day at the Boys and Girls Club with her brother. And when we'd bring the food out and we'd feed the kids, they'd always be the first ones in line. And she'd be there with the little plastic reusable bowl. She'd always be smiling, crooked tooth at the bottom of her smile, very cute kid. And she's growing up there in the north side. And one day I was talking to her and her brother. I said, "Why do you guys come here so often? You're here every single day." She said, "Well, we come here every day because they don't feed us at home." And that always stuck with me, years ago as it was. And so my life continued. I was very lucky to be able to pursue an education, go to university, started from the bottom, working work today, pay today kind of jobs. Eventually went on to the media, publishing industry, met my beautiful wife, Lisa, Dr. Lisa Monkman. It's a Freudian slip in a good way. She is my life. And we have a beautiful family who you got to see in the video there. And so after being given so much opportunity, I felt compelled to try and give back by entering politics. And so I put my name on a ballot in 2016. And at the same time, when that happened, I was invited to go to the Manitoba Youth Center and to talk to the young people in there. And they invited me in to talk about my book, The Reason You Walk. These are kids who've seen a lot, done a lot, and I was working with the adults who are working with them, trying to put them onto a positive path. And so we got to talking, and it was deep conversation, pretty intense. And at the end of it, this young woman came up to me, and she gave me a beaded medallion with a lynx on it, which is my family's clan. So she's pretty sharp, she's paying attention, beautifully talented at beadwork. And then she looks me in the eyes. She's got this hopeful look in her eyes, and she says, "Do you remember me?" It's like looking at her. She says, "Do you remember me?" And I saw the crooked tooth in the bottom of her smile. And I said, "Q." She said, "Yeah, it's me, Q." And on the one hand, I was really happy to see this person again, because I believe in spite of it all, she is a good person. But on the other hand, I was super sad to see her locked up in the youth center. And as we got to talking, she told me like she's been up to this and that, she's caught up in the street life, and she has not only been in and out of detention as a teenager, but she actually gave birth to 2 kids while incarcerated, both of whom were apprehended. So you're all good people. You're super supportive of this project that we're engaged on. Why am I telling you this story when you're out for a Saturday night? I'm telling you this story because Q's story confronts us with a question. What do we want for the future of Manitoba? Because we had a chance to reach Q when she was little. She was showing up when we were feeding her and her brother. And somehow, we lost her. We stopped feeding them. They didn't go to school. They didn't get a job. They didn't go on to the positive path. Instead, we lost them to something else. And the reason why I'm telling you this story tonight is because you think about her 2 kids. Her 2 kids today are the same age that she and her brother were when I first met them. And so I want to share this story to pose the question to you, what are we going to do as a society? Are we going to be indifferent, and are we going to keep repeating that cycle? Or are we going to stand up and say we want better for future generations here in Manitoba? And so I, along with our team of great candidates, who I'm sure you've had a chance to meet here tonight, I want to make two commitments to you that will be part of our election campaign. The first is that if we are elected government on October 3rd, 2023, then on October 4th, we are going to start implementing a universal nutrition program in Manitoba schools that is accessible to every child in this province. We'll get to work on this universal school nutrition program right away, and we will ensure that it is in place within this coming school year. And I want to acknowledge that there is a lot of good work in this space happening already. There are many volunteers and educators who are feeding kids in our communities right now. But right now, it is being left to chance, and it's being left to charity. Right now, it's up to the principal of the Ashern High School, who shows up at 6 in the morning every day to bake muffins for her students, paying for the ingredients out of her own pocket. And right now, it's up to the Dauphin Friendship Center, who go out and solicit donations so that they can feed hundreds of kids in that capital city of the Parkland region. And when you think about the difference that this intervention could make, we're talking about the most important years of the development of a child's brain, the most important years of socialization. We're talking about moving the needle in terms of someone's health outcomes for the rest of their life. We're talking about moving the needle when it comes to public safety in our streets. To me, I say, when those are the stakes, this is not something that we can leave to chance. And this is not something where we should strictly be relying on charity. This is something that is the role of government. And so a Manitoba NDP government will step up and deliver. As a dad, but also as an elected official, it makes me sad to see young people going down the negative path. And these recent numbers that the WPS put out really call attention to the issue of youth crime in particular. And ensuring that there's food at school so kids will keep showing up is part of it. But I also commit to you tonight that if we form government, that we are going to implement a comprehensive public safety plan in our province with a specific focus on reducing youth crime in Manitoba. You know, we've done this before. I credit previous NDP governments who, when auto theft was a major issue, they brought everyone around the table, they asked, what do we need to do? And then they implemented a plan, and then auto theft started to go down. We can do it again, and we need to do it with a specific focus on making sure that young people stay away from a negative path, and we do everything we can as a society to put them on a positive one. So we'll bring folks around the table, law enforcement, the community patrols, Bear Clan, Sabe Peace Walkers. Bring the educators. Sabe in the house, I guess, eh? The educators, the teachers, the educational assistants. Bring the families, the people from the community together and say, what are we going to do to ensure that the next generation has more opportunity and pursues a positive way of life in this province? Now, of course, as somebody running to be the Premier of Manitoba, I often get asked, well, sounds good, how are you going to pay for it? And so, first off, we need to be responsible. We have to be responsible with the public purse, and a Manitoba NDP government will balance the books within a first term if we're elected government. But we also have to grow the economy, because no public safety plan is complete unless there's a job waiting for that young person at the end of it. And creating jobs is the fairest way to grow the economy. And so we got to work with the private sector, we got to work with the building trades to train more young people, we got to work with the post-secondaries and grow Manitoba's economy. Now, I'm very fond of saying that the economic horse pulls the social cart. The economic horse pulls the social cart. I'm surrounded by a team with a ton of great ideas of how we can make Manitoba better, and always I reinforce that yes, that sounds great, and in order for us to do that, the economy needs to be strong. We have to be creating jobs, and we have to ensure that there's opportunity on the economic side in Manitoba. And so 2 things I'll say about the economic picture here tonight. The first, you want the economic horse to walk, the healthcare system is the road on which it walks. And so we got to fix healthcare in Manitoba. We saw over the past few years of the pandemic that when the healthcare system fails, then our economy grounds to a halt. And I don't think anyone wants to see that happen again. And under my watch, that will never happen again. And so there's a ton of complex problems that require a serious team devoting a ton of energy and attention to solving in the healthcare system. But there's 2 aspects of the healthcare staffing crisis in particular that we need to focus on. And those 2 issues are around recruitment and around retention. On the retention side, for sure, listen, we got to give a fair deal to the paramedics who are on the verge of a strike. Right? We also need to end mandatory overtime for nurses. And we need to ensure that everyone on the front lines of the healthcare system knows that their opinions are valued and that their work is meaningful. And that is why I keep talking about the need to simplify the bureaucracy in healthcare today. Because if you talk to the experts who look at what causes burnout, one of the aggravating and contributing factors is having bureaucratic excess which ignores the advice of the front lines, thereby reinforcing frustration and causing further alienation. And so we need to simplify the bureaucracy in healthcare, redeploy the resources to the front lines, and redeploy the decision-making to the front lines as well. On the recruitment side of our healthcare system, we got a bit of a recruiting challenge, okay? Employers in the room, here's our job offer that we're trying to entice young people to work in healthcare in Manitoba. Come work in healthcare in Manitoba where you're going to be burnt out, stressed out, and mandated to work overtime. We got to change that, right? We got to change that. And as one part of the solution, I want to tell you about a very impressive physician, Dr. Ryan Zarechansky. Dr. Zarechansky was actually named Physician of the Year by Doctors Manitoba. He's pioneered world-renowned treatments for COVID in hospital, and he did that right here in Manitoba. And the reason why I'm telling you the story of this pioneering researcher here in Manitoba as part of the solution for the recruitment problem in healthcare is because not only has he pioneered this amazing cutting-edge research, but he's gone out and recruited a team of about 20 people to work with him in the healthcare system, right? And these are people who are passionate, they're on the front lines doing meaningful work, but they're also caring for patients, making lives better in Manitoba. And so the solution, we need to clone Ryan Zarechansky. Now, we don't have that technology yet, but a provincial government could set about the policy conditions where we could create 10 more Dr. Zarachansky's in our healthcare system. And you do the math, with 10 more clinician researchers like that, each recruiting a team of 20 people to work with them, now you have 200 people on the front lines of our healthcare system, energized, passionate, doing important groundbreaking research, but also acting as a beacon of hope to the next generation who's in high school right now and sending a message to them. You can do exciting things in Manitoba. You should come work in healthcare in Manitoba, where you will not only make a difference, but you'll also be helping people in your family, in your community, and in your province. And when we get to the broader economy, I would say this. What is Manitoba's economic development strategy right now? Is this the plan? So I don't think anyone in the room could clearly articulate what Manitoba's economic plan is right now. But I'll take a stab. I'll tell you what I think in one sentence our provincial economic growth strategy should be. Manitoba should strengthen the areas where our diversified economy is already strong, and we should lean into being a clean energy power for tomorrow. And so what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that is we have these amazing industries like agriculture, manufacturing, value-added manufacturing for ag, transportation, logistics, finance, right? We've got an amazing service sector here in the province. We need to be a responsible government that's going to set about the conditions so that those sectors can continue to thrive. And one area in which I would say we've been a little remiss these past few years, especially when you look at how much protectionist sentiment is going on in the States, the whole Buy American movement, is we need to stand up and fight for Manitoba exporters to have access to American markets. And a Manitoba NDP government will be that fighter, fighting for businesses to have access to the US markets. And then we move over to the clean energy side. Listen, everyone is talking about electrification or talking about moving their economy into a clean energy space. It's not just a North America thing. Germany, other global economic leaders are moving there. And Manitoba has a huge competitive advantage. We have a huge competitive advantage because we have a clean electricity grid in the form of Manitoba Hydro that was built up going back to Ed Schreier by Manitoba NDP governments. And so we have to be careful and responsible stewards of Manitoba Hydro, and we have to make sure that the electricity rates and utility rates stay low and affordable while continuing to create good jobs for the hardworking people on the front lines of the hydro workforce. And the best way for us to deliver all of those things for the people of Manitoba is to ensure that Manitoba Hydro forever stays public. We also need to develop the hydrogen economy here. Hydrogen allows us to export Manitoba hydro power to regions where we don't have a transmission line. We'll never be able to build a transmission line to Germany, but by developing hydrogen power, we can export our electricity overseas as they diversify away from gas from Russia, right? And so we're meeting a need economically while creating new opportunities for people here in the province. And the final piece that I want to mention on clean energy is critical minerals. Everyone around the world is after critical minerals like cobalt, nickel, lithium, silica, right? And we have these things in abundance here in Manitoba. And our value proposition to the world, the way that we position ourselves to other economies, should be you need these critical minerals and you can access them here in Manitoba with greater respect for human rights, including Indigenous rights, greater respect for labor rights and higher environmental standards than anywhere else in the world. When we're talking about mining, I'm very, very proud that Manitoba, the Manitoba NDP, represents all of northern Manitoba, including almost every mine site that's currently active in the province today, with just a couple of exceptions. And so I'm very proud that we represent all of northern Manitoba, and that will never change so long as I am leader of the Manitoba NDP. So at the beginning of these remarks, I was talking about Philip Gardner, my dad's buddy, who was pretty good at hockey, and went to the Assiniboia Residential School. And Philip was able to transition his hockey skills into getting an education at the institution we would now call the University of Winnipeg. At that time, I think it was still called United College. But he got a post-secondary education at a good institution right here in Manitoba. And then he went out into the workforce, he became an entrepreneur, opened a gas bar, developed the wild rice economy, developed the tourism economy in his home community, and found success. And then he raised his kids with the same focus on education and a bit of hockey. And they raised their kids the same way. And I'm very proud to tell you that we were just blown away as family friends last summer when Philip Gardner's grandson, Damon Gardner, was drafted into the NHL by a Canadian hockey team. I wish I could tell you it was the Winnipeg Jets, but maybe someday soon. And so Damon's going to play in the NCAA this coming year. And I like to highlight this as a story of success, somebody overcoming barriers and walking amongst the highest levels of achievement that we recognize. But here's the thing, Damon's not even the highest achiever amongst his siblings. That honor goes to his older sister, Kayla Gardner. Kayla got her education at the University of North Dakota while playing NCAA Division I hockey. And then she turned pro, and she played in the Canadian Women's Hockey League, and she played pro in Sweden as well. And to just put a nice bow on the story, she was recently inducted into the Indigenous Athletics Hall of Fame, becoming a Hall of Fame hockey player just like her grandpa. And so the reason why I want to share this story of success of these people who had the will, and they just need a little help finding the way, and that way was delivered through a Manitoba educational institution. The reason why I wanted to share that story with you is to say this. Think about the other young woman that I shared a story of tonight, Q, and then think of Kayla. And I think what our shared project should be is to ensure that more kids like Q can find the same success as Kayla. And here's why it's relevant to the provincial election this year. Our society right now, as it's currently constituted, if you're good at hockey, our society is going to find you. Without us changing anything, our society right now will find the kids who are good at hockey. But what about the kid in Selkirk who can't afford to go to the tryouts? What about the kids who are good at other things? What about the kid in River Park South who's good at math? What about the kid in Amber Trails who's good at music? What about the child in Brandon who has exceptional needs? We need a provincial government that's going to make sure that every single child can find success and pursue the gifts that they were given and set here on this earth with. And when we do that, that's when we're going to live up to that phrase that Phil Gardner's generation has introduced to us. Every child matters. And that's why I'm running to be premier. Because what I want for my kids, I want for all of our kids. And it's going to take a lot of work to accomplish it. there's a lot that we're going to have to overcome. And I'm not just talking about Jen from the Canada Growth Council. This is serious work. The project of not just winning an election, but let's say we win an election and then we actually have to fix the healthcare system and work with the experts on the front lines to repair the damage that has been caused these past many years. And then set about the task of carefully stewarding and stick handling Manitoba's economy into reaching its clean energy potential. But if we do these things, if we engage in this project and we do this hard work through the ups and downs that'll inevitably come, if at the end of that we can feed a few more kids, we can ensure that a few more children finish high school, and we can make sure that every child in Manitoba knows that they matter, well, then it'll all be worth it. So this year, I will be asking for your vote, and I will be asking for your help to form a new government in Manitoba that ensures that we're delivering for children for every walk of life, that fixes healthcare and manages the economy well. And I'll be asking for your vote. But first, I just wanted to take this moment to say thanks. Miigwech. Merci. Thank you. Thank you. I want to take a moment now to introduce you to the team that I was talking about throughout. If I could ask all of the candidates, including the MLAs who are running for re-election, if you could please stand up so that we could acknowledge you. So I invite you all to introduce yourself to some of these candidates and to say hello to them. I'm going to ask that you remain standing. Staff told me not to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway because I really appreciate you all. You have Jolene Delacruz in Radisson. You have Glenn Samard from Brandon East, Mike Moyes from Riel, Bernadette Smith from Point Douglas, Jamie Moses from St. Vital, Logan Oxenham from Kirkfield Park, Uzoma Asaguera of Union Station, Sarah Barterson-Pinsett from the Interlake Gimli constituency, Renee Cable from Southdale, Billy Cross from Seine River, Mike Moyes from River Heights, Chris Wiebe from Dawson Trail, Tammy Ivanko from Springfield Rechat, Lisa Naylor from the Wolseley, Tyler Blashko from La Jamodière, Ian Bushy from Kiiwetinoong, Rochelle Schott from Kildonan River East, and Tracy Schmidt from Rossmere, Nahani Fontaine from St. John's, Adrian Sala from St. James, Mintu Sandhu from the Maples, Mark Wasiliu from Fort Garry, Jennifer Chen from Fort Richmond, Matt Weed from Concordia, Diljit Brar from Burroughs, Mello Altamar from Transcona, Tom Lindsay from Flin Flon, Robert Loisel de Saint-Boniface, David Pankratz from Waverly, and Ron Costishin from Dauphin. Please give them a huge round of applause. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for putting your names on ballots this year. Anyone who has been around politics knows that it is political staffers who really make the political engine run. So I also want to ask our staff to stand up at this time And let's just give them all a tremendous amount of applause and adulation. Sayo, please stand up. Emily, you're not standing. Tim is standing. Dan, I can't see everybody. But I want to shout out Mike Kelly in particular, because odds are that Mike called you on the phone to make sure that you bought a ticket to be here tonight. So thanks to everybody. You've done such an amazing job to bring us to this point where we have a very good chance to form government in Manitoba, and I very much look forward to running this campaign with all of you staffers, all of you candidates, and all of you Manitobans in this room. And so that leaves the best for last, which is where I get to thank my beautiful, wonderfully talented, amazing, hardworking physician wife, Lisa. We are blessed to have wonderful kids who are the motivation and reason that we do all the things that we do. And I just want to say, I cannot thank you enough for all of the sacrifices that you're making so that we can proceed on this project together. So Lisa, thank you so much, and please join me.
Well, what an inspiring speech. Thank you, Wab. I look forward to many more speeches once you're the Premier of Manitoba. I know that everybody in this room is excited to make that a reality, and for Manitoba's kids, as you said, and for all of us and all of our relatives. We're with you, Wab, all the way. And if the ad showed us anything, and your tribute right now to Lisa showed us anything, we really do need to see more of your beautiful family. And although you're a fabulous guy, you really are kind of a package deal. And we are really, really grateful to Lisa as well. And as someone who grew up in a political family, I know just what a sacrifice that can be, Lisa. You're an accomplished physician, a health expert, smart, kind, compassionate, and you're out there on the front lines every day trying to break down the barriers to health that persist in our society, some of the ones that Wab spoke about tonight. So, thank you. So on behalf of all of us here in the NDP tonight, I want to thank you and your whole family for all of the work that you do to build a better province. And I have these beautiful flowers for you. And while I still have your attention, I do want to draw your attention to the back of the program. As promised, I'm going to ask you for more money. I told you about the fundraising pitch, so I'll be quick. Elections cost a lot of money, and the good guys have to spend money too. We're the good guys. So, you heard tonight why it's so important we do everything we can to elect Wab Kinew as our next Premier. And so if you're able, and there are many ways to help, showing up, knocking on doors, participating in events like this, but if you're able, please scan that QR code and make a donation. And thank you in advance to those of you that are able to do that tonight. Before we wrap up, I'd just like to thank once again all the hardworking NDP staff who made tonight a success. Give them a hand. And I know that I have to say sorry that a big gala was planned just after session ended, but I do promise you that you can have a break in October. I think Mark said that you could have October the 4th off, so you have something to look forward to. But seriously, politics is a team effort. It requires all of us to get the job done. So please, let's give all of the team and all of us and everybody here and all the folks out there that we're going to reach between now and October a big round of applause. That is the end of our formal program. So thank you so much for joining us. Bar service continues until 10:30. Last call is at 10 p.m. It has been a true honor to be your MC. It's felt great to be up here again. I thank you so much for having me. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bonne soirée.
Easy, why would I ever leave? 'Cause I know